Hello boaters, I've got a story for you today. Back in the 1990s I had a bit of a near miss one morning. I had a mooring at Pigeon's Lock on the Oxford Canal, and I'd been there, I stayed there for about a couple of years. I was working at the time, and then one morning, it was about 8:30, I was getting ready for work because we didn't start till 9:30, and I noticed past my window a very large cow walked along the towpath. I thought, well, that's not normal. And I looked out, and there were several. And before I knew it, the entire herd of cattle walked past my boat. And I thought, I don't like the sound of this. So I go out to the back doors and look out, and there were all these fully grown bullocks. They were all walking down towards Pigeon's Lock. And I got a bit worried at that point. I thought, if one falls in, there's going to be some serious trouble. And they got down to around the lock. Then they all, because the towpath sort of widened out there, they all spread out. And there's several houses near the lock. And they were going through the gardens and trampling up the lawns and making a mess, eating all the plants and things like that. And they were walking around the lock. And I was getting really quite worried. I raced back in to get my phone. I was going to call 999, and I'm not sure what anyone was going to do, but I thought it was just a matter of moments before one of the cows fell into the lock, which was empty at the time. I had to go back outside to make a call, and as I did so, I noticed the farmer had turned up. So, okay, I abandoned that idea. The cows, meanwhile, I think they'd wandered down from Northbrook. They must have got out of the field and must have been Dashwood's Lock or Northbrook further up. The whole herd had followed the one who'd obviously found its way through, and they came down the towpath. And after they trampled through the gardens and things like that a bit, some of them decided, well, we'll go back again. So they started walking back along the towpath, which was potentially a good sign. But the trouble is, there were still cows coming down towards the lock. Now, as they met each other on the narrow towpath, they got a bit confused and they started trying to turn around on the path. And then, between my boat and the lock, 4 of these great animals fell into the canal. Oh dear. And then, well, 2 of them, they were all thrashing around quite madly in the water, making a lot of noise. 2 of them managed to scramble out, which was quite impressive really, because it's metal piling along there, and the canal's actually quite deep at that point. They must have hurt their legs quite badly because they climb over the metal edges like that. I mean, I didn't notice. I was more concerned with the 2 that didn't get out, because they decided to come straight for my boat, and they were walking through the water alongside the metal piling straight towards my boat. And I thought, oh my god, they're going to try and climb up onto my boat to get out of the canal. In which case that would either sink me, tip the boat over, or at best they would probably go through the deck boards and onto the engine, and it just doesn't bear thinking about really. Fortunately, that didn't happen. What did happen was they were walking along close to the piling, and these 2 cows, they decided to force themselves between my moored boat and the metal piling. So they rammed themselves in. They must have got under the rope at the back, but they rammed themselves in and forced the back end of my boat out into the canal a little bit. The knot must have slipped a little bit on the rope, but then it sort of bit hard and it wouldn't give any more. So I suppose the back end of the boat was maybe 3 feet away from the metal piling. Now it was forced out. The rope was under tremendous pressure, and the mooring spike that I used, well, they're 30-inch mooring spikes, and they're an inch diameter steel bar. They're really heavy duty, and they managed to bend one of those. The 2 cows managed to wedge themselves. They pushed in so far, and then the boat wouldn't move anymore, and they got stuck. And especially the one who was in front, he had less space because the converging lines of the boat and the bank. He was getting quite panicky because I don't think he could breathe very well. It was that tight. And I didn't know what to do. I tried to pull the mooring spike out, but it was under so much pressure that it would not come through. So my next thought was to, well, get a knife, cut the rope. Meanwhile, the farmer had turned up, and he didn't know what to do either. He was no help. I abandoned the cutting the rope idea. What I thought I would do was the rear cow. I just bent down and I started smacking him on the nose, because I guess that's probably quite a sensitive area, in the hope that he would back up, and then I could concentrate on trying to get the other one out. And well, it didn't work at first, but eventually it did. He backed out, and to be honest, I don't know what happened to him after that. He must have scrambled out on his own. All my attention was focused on the one remaining cow. I did the same thing to that one, and he was jammed in pretty tightly. He didn't want to come out. Well, he wanted to come out, but he wasn't moving. But eventually, yeah, we got him loose. And even now you can see the hull of my boat. It's only very, very slight, but it's ever so slightly concave, where that the body of this cow had actually bent the steel ever so slightly. You wouldn't notice it with the naked eye, but I guess if you put a straight edge up to it, you would see that it's just a few millimeters pushed in. If I'd been on a fiberglass boat, or a thinner steel narrowboat like a Springer, they would have just destroyed it, I expect. So after that, I think the cows went back up the towpath, and the farmer, well, he wasn't much help really. He didn't offer to replace my mooring spike. It actually bent the mooring spike. It was, yeah, quite an experience really. I went into work. I was a bit late. I was never normally late. I told them what happened, and they just laughed at me. But yeah, that was a very near call. There must have been 20 or 30 of the cattle that came down. Anyway, unfortunately, I don't really have any photos or videos of it, because this happened in the late 1990s. And that was before I was doing anything like this. And to be honest, even if I was doing video then, the pressing situation, I wouldn't have thought of doing it anyway. It was just a matter of trying to save the boat, really. As far as I know, all the cows were okay. Of course, they're all beef burgers now. That's what happens to them. But yeah, so interesting things do happen on the canal. It's never a dull moment. Just when you think you've seen it all, something like that will happen. Anyway, well, that's a little story. So, back to my regular vlogs next time. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.